Never noticed that before. That, I think, is the work of a woodpecker. That seems like a lot of work. Or is that a borer? I don't know. Well, it looks new to me. And this is our old dogwood. I hope it doesn't, it's not a portent for losing this dogwood. Today is February 9th. And our first, this is the Dogwood Chronicles. It's late afternoon. And our first reading is from the Book of Kings. Solomon, the last we heard, or last I reported, Solomon was wise and asking for wisdom. And now he's an old man, and he's letting a woman ruin his life. He's letting a bunch of women ruin his life. He's taking a bunch of wives, and he's listening to their religions and building temples for all of them. And that's a no-no for God, because there's only one God, right? You know, that kind of reminds me of what I've said about women. It's the women who are pushing the abortion. It's the women in the vote. And I think it's, and again, I've said it makes sense because it affects them directly, but still, it would be okay if they just made the right moral decision rather than the right, rather than the, what's the word? Rather than the decision that works for them. Rather than the expedient. Rather than the convenient. Rather than the self-serving. Rather than the self-serving decision for them. Anyway, Solomon listens to his women. And God takes the kingdom from him. But he says, I'm not going to break my vow to your father David. So, let's see. Jeroboam is going on a journey. He runs into, and I'm going to mess these names up, Ashijah, the Shilonite prophet. Okay, whatever. He runs into a prophet. The prophet takes his new cloak, cuts it into 12 pieces for the 12 tribes of Israel, and gives 10 to Jeroboam, and says that they're going to keep 2, Jerusalem and David. Is that right? 2 parts are going to stay so that the continuing line of David can continue. And so he says that Solomon is going to be taken down and lose most of everything. And then our gospel, what happened? I don't know where they came from. Jesus and the disciples came from something, the Decapolis? Anyway, people bring, the story is, people bring a deaf mute to Jesus. He takes the man away from them and puts his finger in his ear, and oh, look at that, and we're walking on the flowers, and puts some spit on the guy's tongue, kind of gross, and then the guy can speak and hear. And everyone's amazed, and they say, what kind of, this man does everything well. He makes even the deaf and the mute. He heals even the deaf and the mute. Deaf and the mute. So, I think today we can Solomon was wise. He lost his objectiveness. Toby, okay. He lost his objectiveness when he gave way, I guess, to the sin of laziness by not using his wisdom and lust, I guess, to keep the women happy. He gave way and didn't utilize that wisdom. If he had his wisdom, he would have stayed run with the one that brung you, as they say. Don't change. God had been very gracious and graceful to Solomon, and then at the end of his life, he turned away. I don't know how he ends up at the end if he repents, but at this point, he's making poor decisions. So let's all ask for wisdom when it comes to the voting. I'm sorry, but I can't abide anybody who wants to kill babies. Can't abide anybody who can't understand that there's only man and woman, and that just because a woman feels a little more masculine today, or a man feels more feminine, doesn't mean that he's a woman trapped in a man's body, or she's a man trapped in a woman's body. It just means they have different emotions and different feelings. That doesn't mean that you're not a man or not a woman. So if you can't even understand on the basics of simple things that all humanity has understood. You know, people say how smart we are, how smart people are today. How did you get so smart if everyone below you was so dumb? Because that's what they always say. Oh, people are so dumb today. The 20-somethings say that their parents are so dumb they can't do anything, don't understand anything. Well, the parents and the rest of civilization is what got us where we are today. So if the rest of the world and history was so dumb, how did we manage to move forward to this point of supreme enlightenment of 20-somethings and 30-somethings? How did they become so brilliantly genius on the backs of idiots and on the back of a civilization that was backward and sexist and racist and every ist there is? How did they manage to get to be so smart on the backs of such idiots? Wow, this took a dark turn. Shall we put this out? Anyway, let's ask for wisdom. Let's ask for common sense. Let's think about looking at two sides of a story and saying, what makes sense from all the knowledge I've gathered from my 20 years, my 40 years, my 60 years, what makes the most sense? Not what does my side say or your side say. Look at both sides and then decide what is the most logical. I just want the truth. So anyway, remember to ask the saints to pray for us and pray for the souls in purgatory.